Well, we have in the studio with us Vince Onyekwelu, who is a former British police officer. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thanks for having me.
I know in the last couple of weeks, it will seem like it's 1 week, one kidnapping. Last week, we did hear that the wife of the CBN governor was kidnapped 2 weeks ago in Lagos, somewhere around the... I'm trying to remember, I think the Opik areas, in some estates, some residents were kidnapped while jogging in the morning. And then this week, we hear of children and their teachers who have been kidnapped. I think 6 of them in all, 4 children and two of the teachers, even though we understand that it's not confirmed yet, but we understand that 2 of the children may have been released. But then what are we to make of this kidnappings? Isn't this getting rather too rampant?
Oh, definitely. I think the society is getting so much fired up with these issues of kidnapping. And obviously, we need to actually address what is kidnapping and what is abduction. Because a lot of times there's a confusion about the relationship between 2 of them.
Oh, so they're not the same thing?
They're not actually the same thing, but a lot of people do presume or assume they are the same. But one of the 2 major significances between 2 of them is this. When it comes to the issue of kidnapping, most of the time you're going to hear an issue of a financial ransom or a political request by the kidnappers. Now, whereas when it comes to the issue of abduction, you're actually not going to hear the issue of request for a ransom. What you're going to actually hear that you don't actually justify it an abduction until the victim returns back home, so they can tell what happened. So in the absence of a ransom, we presume it's an abduction. An abduction happens mostly when a father and a mother has marital problems and the mother is supposed to keep the child and the father comes to take the child without the consent of the mother. So obviously the child has to go because he knows the father, so there's a kind of a relationship between him and the father. So it's not really the same thing, but we can actually say that in most abductions, in most kidnappings, there's an element of abduction involved in it. But in abductions, kidnapping is not involved in it. So you have to be very, very careful. And when it comes to penalties, it's very rare for anybody who adopts somebody to get up to 7 years. It's very rare. But in kidnapping, minimum 7 years minimum, maximum 20 years and above. So those are the major significant differences. But in Nigeria, it's actually getting very common because of the climate we live in.
So very rarely do we have abductions. What we have mostly is kidnappings, and from what we've seen so far, right?
Definitely.
Because there is also the element of ransom being demanded in most instances.
That is kidnapping then.
That's kidnapping.
That's right.
So what do you think is responsible for the upsurge in what we can see is kidnapping?
I think it's a very high level of criminality. Kidnapping takes a lot of energy, a lot of planning is involved in kidnapping. You don't just become a kidnapper. Like, you can become a pickpocket, sorry, not you, somebody can become a pickpocket or an armed robber so quickly. But kidnappers have to have a sync. They plan themselves. They look at your daily activities. They look at your time schedules, what time, what route you use, what kind of car you drive. So there's a lot of planning involved. So it's a high level of planning involved. It's a high level of criminality involved. And it can be done by 1 or 2 people. You have to look up to like a gang of people planning this. And most of the time, they need to have a base. So if must take somebody and keep it at some other place, there should be a kind of a base station where they can keep the person while they look for the ransom to be paid. But the economic climate can be a cause. Criminality can be a cause. I don't believe that no matter how the kind of recession we are in, nobody can use that as an excuse to be a kidnapper. There is a no-go area. A lot of people are going through the same kind of hardship we're all going through. They are not kidnappers. So I think it's the highest level of criminality. And obviously, unemployment can be a cause. But then orientation, and most importantly, what kind of punishment. How many of them have been prosecuted successfully? How many of them are in jail to become a deterrent to other people that want to get involved in kidnapping? But if there is no track record of people in jail or people in prisons, then they believe they can get out of it and pay some money, and before you know it, they're back on the street again doing the same thing. I have actually had a direct experience of a fellow townsman kidnapped a couple of years ago, and he actually lost his life because he was shot, and he died not knowing that he was diabetic. So obviously, it's something that we have to look into. We are not getting enough justice against kidnappers. We are not getting enough punishment against kidnappers. Once you kidnap anybody, beyond 24 hours and you are found to be guilty, minimum 20 years, bang them out. But it's
what we begin to see increasingly now is the schools are increasingly becoming a target. This is not the first time a school has been targeted in Lagos, especially for the reason of ransom, even though we haven't heard here that the kidnappers are demanding ransom just yet. But then there definitely must be measures that perhaps the schools themselves, governments, teachers can put in place to ensure that incidences like this do not occur. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely.
And what would be some of those measures that you think would be missing in this instance?
It's very pertinent to mention that a lot of organizations, whether it be schools, corporate organizations, government parastatals, do not take their private security very serious. So the instance of schools, I want to see the perimeters of the schools secured. I don't want to see lazy-looking men standing by the gate in some roughed-up uniforms claiming to be security men, and while they're playing on their handsets. That is not security. And for people like the celebrities, obviously you have to spend more money on your private security. You can't take that for chance because obviously you are a target. And then for the schools, once again, I want to see parents making sure that the people that go to pick their children from school or take them to school are people they can trust. No matter how kind of work you do or kind of business you do, making sure your kids get to school safely and pick them up from school safely is key to what you do. Trust the people that you send to get your kids from school. Don't molest those kind of your drivers. Don't tell them off because they are going to pay a very pivotal role in case of any emergency. Respect them because they have the responsibility of looking after your kids in anything happens. Very importantly, when you are driving, most kidnapping can happen either in a site or while in movement, rarely at homes, because they are probably scared. They don't know what you've got at home to protect yourself. So they're going to pick you on while you're in motion or while you are in a school or in an office. Number one, when you're driving behind a car, do not tailgate. What do I mean by tailgate? Don't drive so close to the car in front of you that you are unable to see the rear wheels of the car. Always drive to the level you can see the back two tires of the car. That gives you a space to maneuver left or right, because kidnappers don't come with one car if it's in motion. They're going to come at least with minimum 2 cars. Some even come with more than 2 cars. The first car is them. They try to slow down. You tailgate so closely and you are blocked. The guy from the back come and block you in. And somebody can even come from the left to block you as if there's a kind of motor vehicle problem. And they could be laughing and chatting when they are kidnapping you. Secondly, always pin down, wind up. If you don't have an AC, I'm sorry to say that, but you have to always pin up if you are a celebrity in this kind of situation. If somebody knocks on your window and wants to speak to you, just wind an inch gap or half an inch. They can hear you, you can hear them. Anything happens, keep hitting on your horns, your car horns. Keep shouting. Do whatever you have to do to create awareness. Flash your headlamps. If you have to drive like crazy, so people to create attention that is trouble, they hate drama. They're going to want to run away. And finally, almost every kidnap has to take somebody from a point 1 to a point 2, a base station. We have so many estates that are unoccupied, so many empty houses unoccupied. These can be very dangerous because those can be sites for kidnap base while they look for ransom. And the telecommunication companies, we can use simple ICT to track telephone location. We have GPS that we can use.
Well, we're going to come to the use of technology very soon, and I'm sure that my colleagues in Lagos will also like to put questions through. But then, since we're looking at schools here, especially boarding schools that have boarding facilities, what do you think specifically that state authorities can do, or the school authorities themselves can put in place to reassure, especially parents, that their children in boarding facilities are safe?
All right, for public schools, the state government has to step in. For private schools, the private owners have to step in. Basic things first. Entrance, egress. Before you make an ingress or egress, exit or entrance, make sure you know who is coming and who is leaving. Make sure you do basic checks. Have your system in place. Have a template in check. Names, and they come in. As they're coming in, always advocate for the issue of having entrance cameras that can actually pick up the plate number of the the vehicle and the face of the driver of the vehicle.
This is assuming that the incursion is going to happen through the gate. I mean, we understand that these kidnappers came through the back, came through an area of the boys' hostel that is close to a river, and that they also took their victims away through that route as well and sped away over water.
So that is the issue of perimeter fence right here. So what we are talking about here is making sure that the security you have in your schools are not only focused on the entrance gate. You have to have enough security coverage around the perimeters. Basically, you can have actually 2 security towers, 2 at not pole to each other, so they can actually monitor 180 degrees of the perimeter fence, and have simple walkie-talkie or even a mobile phone to alert the front gate of any issue, and make sure each of the schools are connected to a nearby police station. And in case of emergency, you can call a number for them to come and be of help.
Oh, well, we were not able to touch on technology. I think we overshot our time. But I must thank you so much for coming on the program. Vincent Onyekwelu, a former British police officer, has been our guest this morning. Thank you again for coming on Sunrise Daily. The program continues shortly. Do join us again.